Welcome to Paradise City, my first attempt at documenting a city from start to finish. And obviously by finish I mean until I get bored and I start a new one. Paradise City is a coastal haven filled with palm trees, sand, beaches, hippies, and failed actors. The goal here is simply to take you through my process of how I go about building a city. And hopefully you enjoy it, so if you have any suggestions or questions, make sure to leave a comment. And if you are so inclined to do so, I have links down below to my social medias. If you really want to be bored out of your mind, click on them. Few things to note before we start is that I have all milestone unlocked. I also have 25 extra tile mod, which I tend to use over the 81 because I'm never gonna make it to 81. I'm barely gonna make it through 4 probably, so I don't see the point in doing the 81 tile mod. And I don't play with unlimited money. I like the kind of positive reinforcement of having the green number when it comes to the weekly revenue. So I stick with that. I do use cash on demand, so if I ever cause this would be an unrealistic start for a vanilla city because you'd run out of money before even putting down your wind turbine or your water inlet. So I use cash on demand. It just allows me to get 50,000 whenever I want. So I just spam it in case I need it. There are two main things that I like to do when I start a city. The obvious one is the one I'm doing right now, and it's connect to the outside connections. And the second one is building a transit hub of some sort, usually train being the main transport method because A, it accepts tourists, and B, trains are cool. So in the next part you're gonna see me just build a custom train station, and we're gonna spend more time on that train station than this intersection because trust me, it's far more interesting. The reason we need to customize this particular train station is because it's a through station, which means there are tracks coming in and tracks coming out. But I want this to be an end station just purely because this is the end of the continent, so there's really no need for a through station. And unfortunately, good train station assets on the workshop are few and far between. So this one looks very cool. So what you just saw me doing is basically turning a copy of the station into a procedural object, and then pretty much cutting all of it out except for the main part of it. And then by snapping it on the end of the train tracks, it kind of looks like another entrance hall, but it also hides the fact that there's train tracks coming out the other end. Play around with the stair section just so I could cap it off and be a full set of stairs all the way through, so it really made it look like a giant main entrance. One issue that crept up when I turned the station into a procedural object is that the entrance part of the station, the glass disappeared. So now it looks more like a kind of like a giant hole than it does a main entrance. And as you can see, I'm trying to like fidget around with some stuff here to make it look less holy and more entrancey. I end up coming up with something pretty clever that you're about to see in an instance. So I went on the workshop and found this glass asset, and it's a little light for my taste, but it's the only one that when turned into procedural object kept working as an actual glass that I found, so I stuck with it, and it just gives it a nice little tint. that kind of makes it look more like an entrance hall or an Apple store, whichever. I also went and got these steel beams that I'm gonna finesse using procedural object to give it a more structural look here in the glass, which actually mimics the look of the original station before it was turned into a procedural object. All in all, I think the result is pretty good. I am missing the doors on the side entrance, but I will add those later on, so don't you worry your pretty little face. See me work on the road layout, and I go through a few versions of this because I end up changing the middle road that goes through the station to a tram and bike road. That's gonna be, you know, a little tricky since there aren't any assets that not only do bike and tram, because those exist, but now I need to have a tram that doesn't go through the middle because there are pillars in the structure of the overpass in the station. But as you see later on, I do find a solution for that, so stay tuned. For the sake of realism here, since the tracks go for such a long span without any structural pillars, because there's a road under there, I added this overhead bridge asset, which I modified to fit the size with procedural objects. I jumped ahead here a little, but basically what I spent time doing is connecting the train tracks to the outside connection so that people could come in and out of the city by train. But realistically, who's gonna want to leave? One aesthetic detail that I like to do when I'm putting close train tracks like this together is putting these pillars that overhang the entire structure. Instead of having one structure per track, you just have one big one for the 4 tracks. That way, it's most likely how they would do it in real life, first of all. And then second of all, it allows you to run things under your train tracks, which you couldn't do if you had a bunch of pillars down there. The last of the main things we had to do here was beautify the outside surrounding the station, and I went through a few iterations of this. You can see me here delete some of them, but for the first time ever in my life, I'm gonna use palm trees and city skylines. There's a first for everything. I'm using these planter assets that are just incredible. There's so many variations of them. Not only is there variations in shapes and size, but in material use. Some of them are concrete, some of them are brick, the others are wood. And you can put them down furnished with foliage or without foliage if you want to add your own. But yeah, also added some little plaza square at the top of the stairs. And yeah, in no time this was turned into a pile of concrete, into a pile of concrete with some trees in it. One thing that I always try to add to my builds is benches. You want your Sims to be able to chillax and sit down for a minute, especially if you want your city to be friendly to pedestrian. You know, some of these people can't walk for that long. They need to take a break. Now, are these benches usable? as props? No, ain't no motherfucking body gonna sit on those. But they're there. A few last minute details here. I'm adding the bike lane in the middle road. And I'm also adding pedestrian paths to the stairs leading to the procedural object part of the station, because these won't be used by pedestrians since they're non-functional. In fact, I'm not even sure the main asset has functional staircases, so I'm gonna have to check on that later. So there you have it, our very own custom-ish central station. The beginning of Paradise City, where there's grass and, you know, it's greenish. So thanks everyone for watching part 1 of this many part series, and if you've enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a little likey like, as well as a little subscribe. Yeah, so I guess we'll see you on the next episode.